Today, we are reading from Untold Stories of the Underground Railroad. We're going way back in time to 1821. That's over 100 years ago. Can you imagine? Stop and think a minute about what life might have been like over 100 years ago. Were there any cars on the road? I don't think so. What about bathrooms? Did people have bathrooms inside their house at that time? Believe it or not, most did not. Did people live, white people and Black people attend school together? In many states, they did not. Did they live in the same neighborhoods? In many places, they could not. Many Black people were still enslaved. That meant that someone else was in control over their life, and it was horrible. People were afraid that they would wake up and their children might be separated from them or taken away, or the husband or father might be separated and taken away. So let's get into our story. Today, we are going to read about William Steele. And if you have the book, turn to the story and read along. William Steele was born a free man in 1821. That means that he was a Black man who was not enslaved. He was a free man. I'll start over. William Steele was born a free man in 1821 in New Jersey, when many African Americans like him were born enslaved. Do you know where New Jersey is? Pull out your map and see if you can find it. If you live in New York or New Jersey, do you know many of the cities there? Can you tell us about a city that maybe you visited or lived in New York or New Jersey? In 1847, he went to work for the Pennsylvania Society for the Abolition of Slavery because he wanted to help enslaved people reach a place where they could live free. He was at the office to receive the box with Henry Brown inside when he mailed himself to freedom. Did you read the story of Henry Box Brown? My goodness, what a clever way to get to freedom. William Steele became an agent for the Underground Railroad and kept detailed records about runaway enslaved people that reached Philadelphia. It was not safe to keep information about runaway enslaved people because it might help people find them and take them back to plantations where they could be punished and enslaved again. Can you imagine that? That you had run away to a place where you could live free, but someone was after you and could bring you back to the plantation, punish you, or the enslaver would punish you, and you would be back in slavery. What a horrible thing. To make sure his records were not found, William Steele hid them in the safest place he could think of. Okay, now let's stop a minute. If you had to hide your most precious secret, where would you hide it? Maybe you have a diary. I know when I was a young girl, I kept a diary and I wrote things down in it that I didn't want anybody to know. And I just put it under my mattress. But William Steele's information was so important. I want you to guess where he hid it. Did you write down under his bed, in his desk, in his closet? No, a place even more secretive. He hid it in the cemetery, a graveyard where dead people are. Oh my goodness. Let's get back to the story. When it was safe to do so, he wrote a book from those records and stories about escaping called The Underground Railroad. He told about all the brave things that enslaved people had to do to make it to freedom. One of the hardest things that runaway enslaved people face was losing their families. Most times, a person that ran away to freedom never saw their loved ones again. With William Steele's detailed records, families had information about where their loved ones had relocated, and they could attempt to find them after slavery ended. William Steele always thought about making things just for African Americans. One day, while riding the streetcar, he was asked to move because he was an African American. All over the country, there were laws that said that an African American had to move to the back of the bus or the train or the railway car to make room for a white person. He knew this was not right because he paid his streetcar fare like everyone else and should have received the same services as others. He took his case to court and won. So the streetcars in Philadelphia were no longer able to tell African Americans to move to a different seat. Oh my. His older brothers were born enslaved and had been separated from their parents as children. In an interesting twist, one brother ran away and managed to find his way to Philadelphia. He made it to William's office for help, and both brothers were surprised and overjoyed to be reunited. William Steele's work helped hundreds of enslaved people make it to a place where they could live in freedom in the North and Canada. He invested in the coal industry and became a wealthy businessman. All his adult life, he used his money, knowledge, and influence to help runaway enslaved people make it to freedom and fight for justice for African Americans. Oh my goodness. And actually, this cover represents William Steele and the railroad in the back. William Steele, we salute you. What an awesome story. What a great man. Oh my, I am so inspired that I can do great things to help my community, to improve my situation, to be a great citizen, just like William Steele. And guess what? You can too. What are you going to do when you're an adult? What will you do for a career? How will your life make an impact on making your city, your community, your neighbors and friends have a better life? We salute you, William Steele.
you make that sound?
What about that you see?
Oh.
You're gonna see this.
What did you make that sound?
What about that you see?
Oh.
You're gonna see this.
What did you make that sound?
What about that you see?
Oh.
You're gonna see this.
What did you make that sound?
What about that you see?
Oh.